Building the perfect system. This is a quest that we are all embarked on. Perfection is always a click away, a template button away, a formula away, but yet we never seem to find the perfect system. But we keep trying, we keep watching YouTube videos, downloading new templates. We change our setup again and again, trying to make it 1% better, 1% more automated, 1% more productive. But is this actually making us productive, or are we losing our time? Okay, let me tell you something. You don't need systems for everything that you do. And if building the system is taking you longer than what you are getting out of the system, then there is something wrong here. So in this video, I'm going to explain when you do need a system, when you don't need it, and for the moments that you need it, I'm going to share with you the step-by-step framework that I use to build them. So let's go. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Daniel and I'm the founder of the Notion Academy. Before, in my past life, I was an engineer, and on this channel we use Notion and other tools and strategies to free up our time and to gain control of our lives. Before we dig in, I want to tell you, my Notion is just 20% systemized. What do I mean by systemized? Well, since I know that you're also in this lifelong learning and curiosity quest, let me tell you. By systemized, I mean that there is a workflow. There is a trigger that starts the workflow, a set numbers of steps to follow, and then an outcome that is always the same. So let's think of a simple task management system. The trigger will be us creating the task itself. And now that the task has entered into our system, it will be set as not started, and then our system will help us locate the task when we need it so we can tackle it. And by the end of the system, that task will be done. If we need it, we also can have systems within a system. For example, in this case, this could be a weekly review that is going to help us resurface those tasks and allow us to schedule them for the next week. And that is a system that is running all the time, regardless of the inputs. Okay, so now that we have cleared what a system is, when is a system necessary? Well, for me, there is two basic use cases. First, whenever the success of whatever we are trying to achieve depends on a set number of steps that are invariable in time. This means that they're always the same, and that without those steps, we will not be able to get the outcome that we want. Normally, this applies to more complex systems, such as a task management system or a knowledge management system, where the tasks go through always the same number of steps, and they are linked to other parts of the system, such as projects or outcomes, goals, and etc. And the second use case that I have found more often is whenever we are trying to achieve something and we cannot do it without a system. Let me explain. For example, have you ever saved internet articles with the intention of reading them later, but in the end you never read them? So here your outcome will be to read the article, but life got in the way and you didn't get to read them. So probably this is a good use case in which you are going to need a system that is going to resurface those articles that you just saved so you can achieve the outcome of reading them. And this will all come through self-awareness. If we see that we are failing at doing something, probably a system will help us do so. Okay, so now when is a system not necessary? Well, if you start asking yourself, do I need a system for this? Probably you don't. And why? Because in the moment that you do really need a system, you will totally know it and be certain of it. If you don't, probably you don't need it. So things we wouldn't need a system for anything that we're just going to do one time, such as planning a birthday party, unless you're a birthday planner, of course. Most actions without a certain outcomes, for example, I have a database in my Notion space that I just use to save stuff just in case I need it for later, but I don't have any desired outcome, so I don't need a system for this. Also, very simple processes that even our brain already have inside how to achieve over and over, and that we don't need a system to remind us to do it or to help us do it. So this will just add more friction because we are already doing it by ourselves. So a good rule of thumb here will be, don't create a system until you feel that you need it because you are not getting the outcome that you want. Here the important part is the outcome. If you are getting it, probably you don't need a system. Okay, so now that we know what is a system and we also know when we need to create one and we don't need to create one, I'm going to share with you what is the framework that I use to creating my most complex systems. Of course, if the system is simple, we don't need to go through all these steps, but let's put ourselves in the worst case scenario in which our system is quite difficult and quite complex with a lot of moving parts. So for me, the first step will be to do it first without a system to understand the process. And as you can see, this follows the rule of thumb that I just described before. So first try to do it without a system, and if it doesn't work, then it's time to create one. So this is the first step. Then the second step will be to draw our ideal system. So this is the point in which we are going to start thinking about all the structural parts of the system that are involved. And this, if you are using Notion, will be the different databases that we are going to be using. Then we need to think which is the input point or the trigger for this system to get started. As we said, in a task management, this will be creating the task itself. And then which is going to be the output of the system or the end result of it. In this case, will be to finish the task. And then which are the steps that input is going to take to convert itself into an output. So in other words, what is in the middle of the process that is going to allow me to come from A to B. And then we are going to be writing which are the requirements that we have for this particular system. So for a task management system, could be to hit all of our quarterly goals every quarter. Or for a knowledge management system, will be to process all the information that we input into our system within 30 days time frame. Okay, so now that we have our requirements and structure and everything, we're going to start drawing it. And for this, I would recommend tools such as Whimsical or pen and paper. And first, we're going to be drawing the structure of the system. Because remember, in Notion, these will be the databases that we are going to be using. And we are going to create all the links that we need within our system. And once we get the structure, we're going to be drawing the step-by-step process that whatever we want to achieve is going to follow. And then we are going to think about the requirements that we defined before. So think what process is going to help you achieve those goals with those requirements. In the case of hitting our quarterly goals, maybe this can be ensured by using a monthly review that every month we are going to go through the same workflow and we are gonna see which is the current status for everything that we are doing. So we have time to modify our trajectory. Or for our knowledge management that we want to process everything within 30 days, maybe we can have a view that is resurfacing all the articles and media that we haven't processed in the last 21 days. So we at least have those 9 days remaining as wiggle room to process them. But again, remember, at this point, we're not looking for a perfect system. We're just looking for a system to get started. And now we are going to go to the third step, which is going to be building the system in the app of your choice. Of course, I use Notion because I think it's the most flexible app for these kind of systems, but feel free to use any other. So now that we have our drawing, we're going to be building what I call the minimum viable system. If you come from the startup world, maybe you would have understood this joke. So here the objective will be to build all the system in Notion and start using it in order to find its shortcomings and where it's failing us. So the process will be first to create the structure, in Notion case the databases that we are going to be using, then linking them together as we see fit, and adding the properties that are going to allow us to move through different stages, creating different views that are going to help us, and building any of the subsystems that are going to allow us to fulfill our requirements. And once we have everything built, is the time when we are going to go to the fourth step, which is to use the system and find its shortcomings. While I was scripting this video, I was thinking which could be a good analogy so I can explain this. And I found out that preparing coffee is a very good one, because whenever we are preparing coffee for the first time, it's always going to be watery and the taste is not going to be good. But we keep doing it, we try to tweak our system of making coffee, and we're getting better and better because we are finding where we are not doing it so well. So systems is the same. A system gets improved not from just thinking about how to improve it, but whenever we are finding that our system is failing us, then is when we try to fix that. And this is an iterative process that all the time is going on. So don't try to strive for perfection whenever you are starting out. So whenever we are using our systems, I have found out that there is two different kinds of failures that can happen. The first one is small failures. This could be, for example, steps that you forgot to take within your system. A personal example that happens to me all the time will be to forget to comment in my videos and like add the pinned comment. So I fixed that by creating a publishing checklist that I will have to go through in order to check the video as completed. or property fields that you always forget to fill. This could be easily fixed by creating a linked database, for example, that is going to show you all the entries that have this field empty. So you can force yourself to always keep this database with no entries. And as you can see, this requires very minimal tweaks to our system. But then we have the big failures that normally require even structural changes to our entire system. For example, I keep adding tasks to my system, but they're not bringing me to my true objectives. So this happened to me, and what I did was to create a new database which were going to contain the outcomes that I want to achieve in my life. Those are the measurable objectives that I want to get to. And once I have linked those outcomes to the task, I will just have to ensure that every task is pursuing one outcome. Or another problem that we can have is that I realize that I'm focusing too much on my business goals and I'm neglecting my personal life. So again, this also happened to me. I was focusing too much on YouTube and on my Notion course. So I decided to include one more structural update to my system, which were the pillars, which are going to contain all the different parts of my life that I want to take care of. And then I will just have to ensure that I have at least one goal or outcome for each of the pillars. Or another very common one is that my system gets messy, aka I have so many tiny mistakes within my system that the sum of all of them are making my system totally useless. In this case, what I did was to include periodical reviews. I have a weekly review that takes care of the day-to-day tasks, and then a monthly review that takes care of the higher picture of my pillars and my goals. And these three failures, among many others, was everything that I kept fixing for my Life Compass system. Because coming up with that system took months and months of tweaking. So again, don't try to make it perfect from the get-go. As I always say, consistency is king. And there is not gonna be a good, reliable system without that consistency. And finally, the last step, which is more of a bonus step, is going to be to reduce the information that you get from others and how they build their systems. Maybe this is counterintuitive coming from a guy that is showing you his systems. But if you already know how to start creating your system and you more or less have a working system, please spend some time using it, tweaking it, making it better. And if your system is allowing you to get your outcomes consistently, don't change it, because we can enter in this black hole of productivity, checking different gurus and different methods. And this is just going to make us lose time and get our mind away from the work that we need to get done. Well, in this video, I have mentioned my Life Compass system. And for those of you who doesn't know what is this Life Compass, I'm going to link over here a link to the video in which I walk you through the entire process that my system contains. And if you have any question about it, as always, I'm open on Twitter and you can DM me. So I hope this video can give you a little bit of a path to follow in order to build your systems, and that I have also relaxed some weight off of your shoulders, that you don't need to get it perfect the first time. So that is it for this video, guys, and as always, hasta la próxima.